different different than what we are currently experiencing throughout the world with this trend towards autocracy.
Yeah, well, and the I think the stories came out that way because of what I ask it to generate. I ask it to create an emotional, heartwarming story about how the future unfolds with the adoption of the leverage points.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So, and even when I ask it to generate a picture based upon the 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 first paragraph and the last paragraph, I mean that's
Uh-huh.
Gemini created the images based on the content of the first and last paragraph.
That's
The
amazing.
pictures seem to be at this point quite associated with the the content.
Yes, I'd say so too.
So, hi Nathan,
Morning. How you doing?
are
Morning,
you having
Nathan.
a call at noon?
What's that?
Are you having a call at noon
Tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10.
tomorrow? Am I confused? You have a call tomorrow at noon
10.
at 10. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, I have
I
to
do have a
leave at
call
five
tomorrow at
minutes.
noon, but that's something unrelated.
Okay. Yeah, I signed up for that one.
Yeah, saw that.
And though I do have another call today at noon, so we'll have to quit about 5 minutes of. Um, though it appears as though we're going to be a small group today anyway. David and I were talking about the leverage points prompt that I've been evaluating for the past several weeks, uh,
Yeah.
and I said that I'm continually fascinated by reading the story that it pumps out. It gives me the pieces if I really wanted to put together a relationship map. But the reading the leverage points that it comes up with and the the and well reading
Visuals.
the leverage points and the way it ties into how the story talks about the future unfolding as you adopt the leverage points seems to be quite encouraging. Of course, I told it to write me an emotional, heartwarming story about how the future unfolds. So, um, but there's all the pieces, all of the elements and the relationships if you wanted to create a diagram. Um, but the stories don't make my head hurt the way the diagrams do.
Right.
Just, so um, I'll keep working at it. Have you discovered anything new in the last week? Anything interesting?
I've um I've been playing around with a climate change model in NetLogo, and I've taken um a base model from like the Santa Fe Institute, and I've used NetLogo, Gemini, to create additional NetLogo code. And then I've added quite a bit myself, and I'm up to about maybe 20 variables in this NetLogo code. So I look at the interface of my climate change model, and I realize all of a sudden I'm up to 20 variables and trying to make sense of the model, trying to actually run the model, very keep 19 variables constant, and then vary one variable, and and make any sense out of it. And I'm realizing very rapidly that it is, even with a small number of like 20 variables, it is so complicated to actually use in one's lifetime. I could spend a lifetime trying to, generate data and analyze it, and it becomes almost mind-boggling. And I see the pattern in some of the stock and flow diagrams I've seen, and some of the causal loop diagrams that, I mean, yeah, your head begins to go crazy after you get
Mm.
a certain number of variables that you can't it's there. You can kind of take parts of it and make sense of it, but to wrap your whole mind around everything, and that's where I'm intrigued with your comment about the stories that you can have generated. It's and thinking about a movie. You can actually watch a movie 2 hours uh, and actually kind of follow it. But some of our models, I think, are so complex that in a very short period of time you go crazy.
That was
And
that
I
was
don't know where
one.
to go with that, but that's an observation I made yesterday.
Well, at one point, that was one of my real eye-opening aha moments. Was Bateson's comment that it's the pattern that connects, which led me to understand why it is if you go to the play or you watch a movie, you can leave and take the story with you because there's a pattern that
Right.
flows and the pieces connect together in a way that forms a pattern. With the models that I was developing, there isn't a pattern. There's just a whole bunch of connections and trying to figure out how to explain it as a story. Um, I could do that unfolding it piece by piece by piece, but the story was too long and not well connected. So so by the time I got to the 10th loop, nobody could remember what was the first loop was about. And I had 20 more to go. It was as bad as doing my PowerPoint presentations. And at one point, I said, "What does it mean?" And this one model that I had been presented dozens of times, I managed to abstract it,
Mhm.
just move away from it far enough so that I could describe it in 3 loops and tell a very nice story in 2 minutes or less, which was short enough so that I wouldn't lose anybody because it was a story about unwanted pregnancies, unwanted births, and sex education, right?
Mhm.
And the three of them tie together very well and create shifting the burden structure.
Mhm.
Though I don't know how to get from a model, I don't know how to do that abstraction reliably. I mean, a couple of times it sort of appeared. I don't know how or why it appeared. It just all of a sudden it was there. Now,
Well,
the other thing that struck me kind of funny was the woman who was responsible for the development of comodel.io posted a model on LinkedIn about used to enjoy flying or something like that. I grabbed the
mm,
model. I grabbed a JPEG of the model and gave it to Gemini and said, "Do an audio overview of this model."
mm,
So Gemini gave me a story about the model just from the picture
really?
and the labels on
Jeez.
it. And what I should have also have done, and I didn't think of it till just now, I should have asked Gemini to write me a story about the model to see what it came up with.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was surprising that not giving it any text, just here's an image, create me an audio overview of this image, and it was 5 or 6 minutes long.
Wow. Amazing. That is amazing.
You're muted,
Oh,
Nathan.
yeah, I
Oh, there you go.
realized that. Makes me wonder what they trained on that it can do that.
Yeah.
Because, up till
Um,
now, I've heard about how it's trained on text and how it's trained on images. How did they train it to make text from images?
Yeah, or the relationships on a diagram.
Yeah, which is seems much more complicated than saying this is a cat.
Yeah, much more.
Well, it understands what relationship maps are, understands
Mm,
causative diagrams.
yeah.
Um, and,
So, I mean, they had to have trained it on some body of work using them.
mm,
We'll get back to David. You're wanting to change one variable at a time. Sounds like Monte Carlo method. And I'm wondering if I'm not up to speed on the whole agentic AI thing, but an AI agent, I think, that tells other AIs to do things.
Yeah,
Sounds like there might be a Monte Carlo analog to telling
yeah,
an AI agent to tell the AIs to run this model and change one variable at a time and report back.
yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I think it is beyond the capability of people. It's going to require some sort of automated testing and analysis.
Which is one of the better times to use computers.
Exactly, exactly right.
Um, yeah, I
Hi,
do.
Tripty.
Hi, I am not camera ready today.
It,
I'm
it
delayed
appears
because we're
it
in
appears
North
as though you're
Korea.
blinking in and out.
Well, I blinked just to show you I'm here, but I'm not going on camera. Sorry.
This is technically
Okay.
deadhead. It's just that I've recently had a haircut, so it's not quite so obvious when it's this short. Right before the haircut, it can be pretty wild.
Nice.
Might get a little bump here that's not actually part of the shape of my head.
Well, you guys have it a lot easier. Let's just leave it at that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
So we have just been wandering around talking about various things. Tripty, nothing earth-shattering. Um, Anything in particular you've done in the last week that was new and exciting or interesting related to AI?
Well, you know what I've done, but I think it's not really. So we've been, just to fill everyone in, I mean, we've been really beefing up our AI at work, um, and using all these sort of AI driven, um, you know, very specific AI driven eligibility verification and risk mitigation and delivery, kind of tools for our delivery for patient care. Um, and I've been learning a lot about interactive voice response uh, as a tool, and then kind of what they call triage capability automation, which means basically you're a patient, you go to get seen, and the nurse, he or she, is talking to you, and the AI does the diagnostic for you in real time. So obviously I'm not working with the tool directly, but we're writing a proposal right now, which is why I'm late. And I can only stay for like 5-10 minutes. And there's a lot of discussion about incorporating our AI tools into a next generation program um, with a government client. And so that's going to be written into our bid very soon, like by May 2nd, by actually May 9th. But um, and hopefully we'll be able to roll that out. This is work that we're already doing to provide faster decision making on diagnostics and getting people to the next level of care. The people we're specifically referring to are service members. So anybody who's active duty who requires examinations um, as a standard course of their service.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, and so this opportunity that we're supposed to be on the next generation contract is about $300 million
Oh,
for 5 years. Yeah. And it's worldwide, wherever service members are. So any state in the US, CONUS, OCONUS, and then any place where there's a base effectively with United States personnel presence.
Well, it's nice that you're working with some aspect of the federal government that still has money. Um,
Oh yeah, very lucky. Very,
oh,
very lucky.
oh, congratulations, Nathan.
On
I heard about the election yesterday.
what?
Are you
Where are
Canadian?
you?
No, I'm in North Carolina.
You are? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you were in Canada.
no, I live right outside
Okay.
Raleigh.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why I've been telling a story on the
Sorry.
community side.
Thank you,
Yeah, no,
Trippy.
no,
I'm
no.
sorry that I
Yeah, no, no, no. I've
jumped
got a
in.
fun
You're good,
story for
Gene.
the I've got a
I
fun
was
story for the
almost
community.
excited because I thought he was Canadian.
I know Canadians. I used to work for Nortel years ago,
Me
back when
too.
there was a Nortel. Um, I had coffee with a guy who lives about a mile from me a few weeks ago. We met in a Zoom hosted by an academic in Singapore that was run in a time zone for their convenience. We were introduced by Badra, or I was sent to that meetup by Badra, who I met in your meetup that I know about because you invited me. As far as I can tell, because I don't know if you invited me or if you just announced it, but I'd bought your ebook way back when. And somehow I knew about you, you knew about me, and I got invited to that thing. And you're out at the Outer Banks where I've never even visited, even though I grew up in North Carolina. So the first person out of this virtual meetup, I meet somebody in Canada who tells me about a virtual meetup in Singapore where I meet a guy who lives 1 mile from me and we have coffee. And that's the first face-to-face contact I have from that entire chain is a Brit who lives in my small town outside of Raleigh. I'm
strange
I have
world we
convinced of
live
the
in.
managed to
value of
connect
these
with
virtual things.
I've managed to connect with a number of people that come to the Outer Banks for vacations
Sure. My
from the
neighbor was in
DC.
Kitty Hawk last week.
Mm. So if you ever do get here, let me know.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that I've never been there. I grew up in the foothills, so North Carolina coast was a long, especially in the 70s, was a long, long drive from Western North Carolina.
Mm.
It
Still
was,
a long drive from Western
well,
North Carolina.
not as long as it used to be. There wasn't an I-40.
Eh,
85 used to go through Winston-Salem or no, High Point.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. Hello.
Well, whatever you were hiding from us before, it's can't imagine what it was.
I brush my hair a little.
So, so I'd like to show you something that I worked on 2 days ago that actually actually gave me goosebumps, which here. So several years ago, I got fascinated by an application called Napkin, which was a thought weaver where you sort of distill the thought down to an atomic thought and added some tags to it, and you filled the database with all of these, and it connected them together in different ways. And I was just unbelievably fascinated with it enough to do about 6,000 entries. And then I decided that it wasn't doing quite what I wanted it to do. So I quit using it. Though for the past few months, I've been pondering first principles thinking. where you take something and distill it down. Well, they say that that's what Elon Musk did to build SpaceX. You take something and you distill it down to the basic fundamental principles, and then you reconstruct something new from all of those first principles. So I was envisioning a database of first principles so that it would connect things together based upon first principles appearing in different things that didn't come to mind, obviously, because I can't think about all them things at once. So I sat down with this query. I want to create a database of first principles, whatever, with Gemini Canvas. And after about 30 minutes, I came up with this, it came up with this application whereby I can go ahead and enter, let's see, uh, clearly define a vision. This is one of the first principles. Well, the first principle is this, and this for one of the first principles of strategic planning. I can then add the description that Gemini came up with. I can add some tags. Might add purpose, vision, um, and add it. Then I can come down here and I can say I want to filter by tags, and I might say holism, and there's only one. But if I click on it, it will show me what the principle is, the description, and the tags associated with it. But if I said systems thinking, it would say that all of these pieces are related to systems thinking, and it shows me the tags that relate them to each other.
Hmm.
And to have Gemini create this code in 30 minutes based upon, in other words, sorry, I had to go back and forth a number of times and say, well, I want it to do this and this and add this. And if I have thousands and thousands of tags, a drop down isn't going to work. So let do type ahead so it'll go find whatever is associated with what I enter and export the data because it's saving the data in the browser. So I could import it back in and just continuing through this whole sequence of
Wow.
questions where it updates the code based upon my comments. And in interacting with it, I have come to realize that I'm still confused about what I want. So that I can't give it a good set of descriptions at the moment for how to modify it because I have a topic or a thought or something in a set of first principles, descriptions, tags, and I want to, there's a place to put a link to some relevant location for whatever the first principle is. Um, and I haven't got it clear in my mind what I really want it to connect together and show me. But the fact that it created all of this in 30 minutes just blows me away.
You know,
I thought about the application for probably a week, sort of unwilling to sit down and do it because I was convinced that it couldn't. That was a mistake on my part. I could have done this a week ago. Um, though I'd have probably still been just as confused about what it was that I wanted to do. Really, just keep asking it to change things.
hmm.
So,
Well, I appreciate seeing that because I've seen people writing about vibe coding, but I haven't really seen examples.
and you
Uh,
know, here
and I
says,
had a conversation about the network of networks thing last week that ended with the other guy saying, this sounds like a weekend of vibe coding to get to a minimum viable product. I'm like, okay, I wonder how that works.
So it's like when the first filter has when the first filter by has shown all selected, the second filter by still says filter by tag. Should this not filter at all? And it gives me this description and explains the application to me in terms of what it's doing. And so at times I can ask it to make changes to the code. And at times I can just ask it about how it's working and have it explain to me what it thinks I'm thinking. So, which this is, I think this is the easy entry into Firebase Studio, which is way more sophisticated in terms of what it will develop in terms of code. And I have, where is it? Where is it? Someplace. Oh, I know where it is. Hold on. Here is the link. Here is a link to what I've Firebase, Firebase Studio. There's a link to the the best video that I've run across in terms of Firebase Studio that that actually is sensible and not going off of the deep end. So.
Mm.
So that's probably what I'm going to continue to work on for the next week or so until I get distracted by something else.
Always end up with something on the go learn this list.
So that, yeah, like I think I said before, the approach it with the mind of a child and play with it and see what it'll do as opposed to being so worried about making a mistake and because you can just delete it and start over again. I mean,
So at what point in the process do you start getting charged for something? It seems like we're in the everything's subsidized by, I don't know,
well,
risk capital of some sort.
well uh, the the is it? I can't remember
And with
the
Google in particular,
canvas,
you never
both
know.
the canvas and the deep research aspects of Gemini are free.
Mhm.
Uh, it's a question of if you want to subscribe to any of the chatbots, you get better models and access to additional features.
Mhm.
But there's an endless array of things that you can do for free.
From last time, I got the impression that you start hitting a meter if you publish something so that other people can use your resulting application. Is that right?
Um, well, I think that depends upon where. In other words,
Like if you're
if
building a
you
website with some function.
well, okay, so you could you could build out the website with Gemini Canvas,
Mhm.
grab the code and drop it somewhere else.
Okay.
All right.
So use it as a development environment and host it wherever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
in terms of um, what I got from the video on Firebase Studio is once you develop the application, you can launch it through Google. You end up paying Google then because they're hosting it for you.
Yeah, well, it's not like my other hosting is free. It just I have a certain amount of capacity under my existing quota. So
Oh,
it's effectively free up to a point
mm,
because I have more I can create more databases without hitting my limit.
mm.
So they might as well be free.
There is, yes. And the fact that Google made an announcement a week or so ago that Gemini Advanced and Notebook LM Plus are both free for US students for the rest of this year and all of next year was just, though with Notebook LM, there are in the free version, I think you get 100 sources and 50 notebooks. In the paid version, you get 300 sources and 500 notebooks. Uh, with the free version, I ran into 50 notebooks in 2 weeks. But I just started downloading the audios and putting them on Google Drive and linking to them and reusing the space. So, I mean, it's just,
Yeah, I did that once, for actually on Friday because our RFP came out and it was 200 pages. And I got Notebook AI because it's a public document. It's 95, the root paper is 95 pages, and then there's like 18 attachments. And it's a public document, it's available on sam.gov. So I went to Notebook LM, thanks to you, Jean, and I uploaded the document. And there was like, it created this whole conversation between two people about what the document was about. And then I downloaded the audio from my laptop and just listened to what this is all about as if I have no prior knowledge. It was great. It was really great.
and often listening to the audio provokes an interest in asking additional questions so that you can go back into Notebook LM and ask questions about the document and the way that it answers your question and gives you reference points so you can see specifically where in the document it pulled the pieces of information to answer your question. And somebody sent me the outline for a workbook that was probably as large as the document you're talking about. And for me to read 95 pages takes about a year and a half. So I put it in Notebook LM and generated a mind map and walked through the mind map, which gave me an amazing overview, piece by piece, of a coherent structure of the document, regardless of how it was actually put together. It determined a coherent structure for the document. And at certain points, the the element was of such interest that I clicked on it and it gave me a textual description of that node in the mind map. Now, currently I'm a bit disturbed with it because when you go back to read that description, it closes the mind map. So you lose where you were and you have to work back through it to get back to where you were. But somebody will complain about it and they'll fix that. So I have I have more tools than I know what to do with. It's a question
Yeah,
of
you run
figuring out
into
uses for them.
you run the risk of
Yeah.
running what I used to run into with my tech support career, of developing all these skills and no actual work of my own to apply them to. Because in tech support, you're always helping people with their problems.
Right.
And your project is your assignment is to stay up on all the necessary tools. And eventually it got very frustrating that I had some significant skills with computer stuff, and my work was limited to helping other people with their work. So at some point you have to kind of decide what thing do you want to apply it to, and having a project or challenge or whatever of your own is the way to focus on the ones that are actually relevant, because there's just too many tools in the world.
Yeah, I think the key thing is you have to learn to focus and focus and with everything going on, you're focusing on less and less and less. And I guess that's the kind of the old joke about a specialist is you know more and more about less and less.
Well, and even if you zoom the other direction, and there's a lot of conversation going on about generalists and other people who do the opposite,
Right,
right? And there's a way to focus that too,
right,
right? Even if you're going big picture and not specializing, there's a right
right,
way to do big picture and generalist point of view.
correct.
Um, and you get your own set of models and tools if that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
the
absolutely.
the tool that can read a document and give you a mind map is interesting.
Yes, it
That's
is.
really interesting. It's like, give this to me in 30 seconds. And the diagram will, or the mind map will communicate much more than 30 seconds worth of text will.
Yeah, and particularly as with like Notebook LLM, once you generate that mind map, you can then actually cursor over one of the nodes, the mind map, and it expand that. And
Mhm.
so you got a dynamic outline.
Mm.
And that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, the thing that jumped to Dean, you're talking about 95 pages. This made me think of the Project 2025 document, which is 900 pages.
Right, right. Yeah, scary reading too.
I
But
downloaded it just in case it was going to disappear, but I haven't risked it. I haven't braved
well,
reading it.
yeah, and we're seeing it being implemented at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
Go if you get a chance, go listen to Pritzker's presentation in New Hampshire
Oh, yeah.
yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, I read about that.
I think I saw it
Uh,
on YouTube. I will look at
it's
it.
it's took no prisoners. I
Yeah, I liked the everywhere all at once.
mean, it's
Drop the
Yeah,
pop culture reference in there.
right,
he
right, right.
seems he seems to be a billionaire that didn't turn out to be an asshole. Uh, I mean, he owns the Hyatt hotel chain,
Oh,
uh, and governor of Illinois. So,
That's the I don't know if you've paid attention to Wired magazine has become surprisingly last time around it was Teen Vogue that did great political reporting, and this
hmm.
time add Wired magazine, and what they have in common is they're owned by Condé Nast, which
oh,
Owned by
apparently is
who?
Condé Nast.
Travel Magazine.
Oh,
Is that right? Is that right, Nathan?
Condé Nast is a media company. It's owned by
Okay.
it's a publishing company that's owned by a billionaire who's apparently the good example.
Oh,
So you have two different semi-random magazines that are suddenly doing solid political coverage. What they have in common is a billionaire owner who apparently wants them to. Gene, I
oh,
was going to mention, there's a Wired has a newsletter about using AIs and
uh,
um, called AI Unleashed, I think.
mm,
And they're doing a webinar at 12, no, at 1 today that is a
oh,
walkthrough of Chat GPT features.
whoa.
It's subscribers only, but when I signed up, Wired was $10 a year. Actually, I think they even ran a special right after the election. It was $5 a year, but $10 a year, it's
Whoa.
worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just have to kind of breeze past the airy futurism stuff that Wired has always done. Um, but there's enough good coverage of tech and business and politics and everything. There are enough random articles that are worth it.
Oh yeah, $10 anymore barely buys you a cup of coffee.
Just how best to use ChatGPT, Gemini, and other AI tools. Our AI expert answers your question.
Yep. Is that the one today? I didn't
Well,
realize I
this is
signed
an
up for
article
the
that's exclusive to subscribers.
yeah, I think that one's older. The one at one the live event at one is specific to ChatGPT. Um, and I didn't know it was a newsletter until I tried to find the link to share with you.
If you have access to Apple News, you can get most of the Wired magazine articles.
Hmm. Huh?
Yeah, it's been interesting. The magazines you would dismiss as pop culture or something lightweight that have turned around and like I remember when Cracked was like Mad but not as well known.
Mhm.
Um, and they started doing serious journalism, you know, 5, 6 years ago. And I'm not actually sure if there's still a magazine. Maybe it's just a website somebody bought the name. But
Hmm.
you definitely see some actual writing associated with names that you wouldn't have thought.
So I also watched a video yesterday or the day before. Who can remember?
Yes.
About how 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 ChatGPT is making us dumber.
Yep.
And they they likened it to how people stopped learning how to do math because they were using calculators. Kids can't add and subtract because you got to give them a calculator. And multiplication and division are even worse. Though I'm, I guess I'm uncertain with whether or not I agree with them. Um, any one of the chatbots provides one with access to more varied thoughts than they could have on their own if we if we you can use it stupidly or you can use it intelligently, I guess. And where some they started out talking about professors realizing that the quality of the papers written by students improved markedly by nothing that they could explain rationally. Okay. And come to find out students were using AI to help them write the papers. And then, some professors looked at it as a method of cheating, and other professors looked at it as an, an undeniable future, I guess, and demanded that students use it and present all of their interactions with the AI and helping them write the paper. So the question was, do I limit the student's ability to evolve because they have to come up with their own thoughts and do research the old way, or do I allow them to to research the answers to the topic and encourage them to use the resources intelligently? And I think I'm on the side of the second one.
I am too. I've spent many years chairing doctoral committees for research, and I tried an interesting experiment using ChatGTP to write a dissertation on any given topic, and I was totally blown away by the fact that in a few seconds I could generate 50-60% of a doctoral dissertation on a variety of topics. Because a good bit of a dissertation is a lit review, where one reviews a lot of, well, documentation, documents that have been written, research reports, and it kind of does a comparison and analysis of that. In the introductions and discussion of much of a dissertation is kind of boilerplate. And literally, you could pretty much say a 200-page dissertation. You could probably have ChatGTP help you with over 50% of it. And then I was thinking, um, probably everybody but Tripty might be too young to remember John, the story of John Henry, the steel driving man, and thinking today that Chat GTP or AI and all these tools are the new digital John Henry. The story about leveraging what we know into a different plane. And that's the future. We're not going to go back to reading 95-page books and research reports and doing comparison, because we won't live long enough.
This
And so
Tripty,
those are some.
the story of John Henry was once upon a time all the railroad spikes were driven by hand, and they created a steam engine to drive railroad spikes. And the story of John Henry was a competition between John Henry and a steam driven spikes, and John Henry won and laid down his hammer and died. So,
So
or at least that's the way the
today's.
song went.
Yep, and that's like today's programmer or coder, that you can't keep up with it. You can't generate code fast enough as a human being.
The interesting part of that whole of the dissertation story to me is that 50% bit. Because it sounds like what you've done is you've isolated the part that's actually creating value. And if the machine can read, the machine trained on existing literature can write half of it, then the value is in the other half.
Right, of course. Right,
And
right.
so why wouldn't you use it?
The value is absolutely in the actual research.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The first half of a dissertation is basically summarization of where we are, and your research is this is where the body of knowledge stops and my
Well,
research begins, and that's the value add.
so
That I don't see that I don't see happening with AI anytime soon, because it's the creativity. It's like Jane says, asking the right questions.
Well,
What are the questions that I'm trying to get an answer to?
and if
so
your
so
project
isn't
involves original research,
Yeah,
the AI can't look that up because it hasn't been done yet.
exactly, exactly right. But
so
but it
isn't
helps you get there.
isn't the right question, does the student understand the dissertation?
Oh yeah, that's important too. That's good.
That's important too.
It's
Well,
yeah, yeah,
back to
absolutely
the
Because,
important.
calculator analogy. Calculators eliminated the drudgery of arithmetic
Right,
or higher math if you got a many button calculator. But the thing is, you have to know what to do with it.
right,
right.
exactly.
And it's great that your calculator can do the multiplication, but if your algebra is wrong, you're not going to get the right answer.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, if you can generate, or at least partially generate, a good portion of your dissertation,
Mhm.
then you're saving a lot of time,
Yeah.
and that time can be better spent focused on the research
Yes.
than the typical. Yeah, well,
Yes.
here's introduction and where we are today.
And your
And
dissertation may very well involve mathematical modeling done in Mathematica, but if you're doing math in Mathematica, not having math skills is not your problem.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's encouraging to me because I don't have the formal training on a lot of that, the research methods and dissertation writing and all of that. So something that can do some of the grunt work for me for my own projects where I don't have to present to a committee is very helpful.
Oh, there's no question. It,
Yeah.
it can save so much time. I mean, instead of taking 3 to 4 years to do your research, you could cut it down by half. That's significant.
Yeah.
And, and it's really giving us more time to live, to do what we want to do.
I wonder if
And,
ChatGPT can be paired with something like ZocDoc. ZocDoc. There's some applications that do um sorry, I'm blanking out, but they do all of the like they do a lit review for you.
Mhm.
Um and uh and I don't know if it's
What's it called, Dripta?
it's not called what I said it was called. It's called something else. I'll get it to you. There's distiller and there's other um sorry, I blanked out on the name. There's a lot of them actually out there, but there's one that a friend of mine who's getting a PhD, he uses, and I can't remember what it is, but he swears by it. And I wonder if GPT will replace those or if they can be paired for some kind of augmentation.
Hmm.
well,
Well,
pairing seems
there's
reasonable. Because you can pair Chat GTP with things like Mathematica or uh, other forms of mathematical um, software products. So it seems to be a reasonable thing.
Have you looked at lit maps?
I'm sorry.
Lit maps is
Oh, let me.
some sort of I think there's an AI in there that's a literature review tool.
Oh,
I don't think it does it for you. I think it's just more of a uh,
uh-huh.
search kind of tool that's understands what a lit review is.
I just did a Google search and there's Jenny AI, that's a literature review generator for free. There's SciSpace,
Jesus.
a AI literature review. There's Litero AI, AI tools for literature review. I expect it's already there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Well, I have to
considering
run.
how much this whole field is in research, still as it's being developed by
Mm,
researchers, building tools from themselves would seem like a high priority.
Mhm.
okay. So thank you all. I have to run because I have another call.
Okay. Good.
And
Perfect.
we will have a meeting on Thursday. There will not be one next Tuesday because I have to go for another colonoscopy
Oh
for
no.
joy. And
No, no.
Stereo on that one.
fortunately, they put you to sleep these days. So
Yes, they do.
um, so all right.
Okay.
Okay,
I can't
good
make it next
luck.
week, but bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.